My experience in general has been a devastating one. I don't think there's a word you can use to describe it in a nice way.
It was a very, very, very dark period for a very long time, and a very lonely sort of battle, because you're too scared to talk about these things, because with OCD they're so often.
I'd probably say like it dominates a lot of my life, and I think even now, even though I look like I'm coping quite well on the outside, I think how many obsessions are going through my head and how many, mental compulsions and stuff is not really understood, and I find it quite hard to kind of, like, sometimes when it's really difficult, I don't want to have to go through and explain it, and I feel like every time I need to talk about it, I have to give an explanation for what's going on.
I'm Rowan and I have OCD.
I am Ollie Newton and I have OCD.
I'm India, I'm a medical student and I study at the University of Leeds. I have OCD.
OCD is Obsessive-Compulsive Disorder, which would come in the form of rituals, compulsions, intrusive thoughts, rumination, negative images. It's not just cleaning.
OCD is a mental illness. It kind of is characterised by having obsessions and compulsions. So like the obsessions are intrusive thoughts which the person continues to ruminate on, and the compulsions are either physical or mental things that the person feels they have to do in response to the obsessions, and it can be really serious and can really affect someone's quality of life.
Obsessive, intrusive, and most importantly, unwanted thoughts and feelings. And in order to combat those obsessive thinking, usually someone would act out a ritual, which is actually known as a compulsion.
How long have you been living with OCD?
So I remember the very first sign where I knew I was a little bit different. I was 6 years old. I was on holiday in Menorca with my family, and we'd just been out for a meal. And we were walking down this street, and I touched this lamppost with my right hand, carried on walking, about 100 metres down the road. I just had this overwhelming fear that if I didn't go back and touch the lamppost, I thought that my mum or dad were going to die. So I ran back to the lamppost as fast as I could. I touched the lamppost, and I honestly believed, completing that one little act, that I'd actually saved everyone's life. But little did I know it was going to be the start of something that would materialise into something pretty difficult as the years went on.
I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 17, I think, but I had it since I was about 12 or 13, so when I started secondary school, because we were told that you had to get 100% attendance, and I absolutely fixated on that, and I was very worried that if I was unwell I would lose the 100% attendance, so I had to be completely well all the time so I wouldn't lose that 100% attendance. And then kind of through secondary school it kind of remained challenging, and it got particularly challenging leading up to the pandemic, so pre-pandemic kind of time. And that was really challenging because it meant I couldn't go on any buses or trains, I couldn't go into a shop or anything.
I think about 2.5 years since I was officially told that I had it. So yeah, 2 years officially, but unofficially probably about 17 years.
We all have intrusive thoughts, right? We all go through stages and times, and it doesn't even need to be a stage where we have a thought that we're it can happen to any of us at any time. We think, well, that was weird. That was a weird thought. That didn't sit with me, my morals. Sometimes you just wouldn't even think twice about it. Some really common examples, one of the ones I use a lot, is jumping off a high place. I think 50% of males have it, 60% of females have it. Something along them lines. This was tested years ago though. I remember reading some research, and we stand up there, but we're not actually going to do it. It's just a thought, right? You have this little urge, I might jump, and it's gone, right? It doesn't mean anything. It's not like you actually want to jump. It's like you just look over the edge somewhere high and you think, oh. And it's common, but other common thoughts we don't often talk about are things like pushing somebody. for me, this one was really devastating for me in my journey for periods. Pushing a person in front of a car, pushing a person in front of a train, but it's not that, it's the aftermath of it with OCD. Sometimes with OCD it's difficult to look back on stuff and decipher what's real and what is not, because you have the thought and it impacts you differently sometimes. Like, I can speak on behalf of my own journey, and it almost made me believe that I could have done this like that badly. It would go on for months. It would be like, I'd write a note on my phone, you'd not push the person, you're not a murderer, you'd never hurt anyone. Around them notes there'd be like 20, 30 other notes, reassuring myself that you hadn't pushed that person. And then in the days to come, I'd start obsessing over it. I'd start making myself believe, what happens if you did push him? What happens if the police are going to come and get you? You could have hurt that person bad. You need to find out, do you need to go to the train station and get the CCTV to make sure that you didn't actually hurt them? Do you need to go and, confess to... And it just snowballed for me. And it was like, there was periods that could last months where I'd be obsessing over something, again, living the fear and guilt attached to something that I would never in a million years do. And that just, for me, shows how powerful the mind can be, how controlling and consuming OCD can be.
Previously, like, a lot of people have gone, that's a really weird thought, or told me that it's irrational. And like, a lot of my friends were like, yeah, but you're a really rational person. Like, I'm quite scientific, I like science A-levels, I do a medical degree, and they're like, why can't you get that this doesn't make any sense? And I think it's sometimes worse with STEM students and like medicine students, because they're like, but you know all the logic bits, why can't you follow any of the logics? And I'm like, I don't know, I just can't. Like, it doesn't work like that.
My specific subtype was relationship, well, I say is it is relationship OCD, which I think can actually mean obsessive thinking about, usually it's about a romantic partner, but it can be about like a parent or a pet or even a friend. Mine was about my boyfriend. I think we'd been together about 18 months, and I just started having horrible doubts. I started thinking, what if I break up with you one day? What if I don't love you? What if I don't love you enough? What if I love you but I'm not in love with you? What if I cheat on you? Oh, you don't look that good right now. I'm not attracted to you. That means I need to break up. It was absolutely horrible. It's not just about perfectionism within tidying a room. You can have thoughts about, harm and, being a paedophile, which is absolutely horrible, but it happens. I think if those sort of themes were presented more, people would be less afraid to come forward and say, oh, actually, I'm struggling with this and I need help.
Things got really dark really quickly. The sort of anxiety that was attached to the thoughts sent me into this spiral into a state of depression that little did I know at that stage that I was going to find myself in for like 10 years. So, I lost pretty much a decade of my, I believe that I lost a decade of my life to severe OCD, anxiety and depression. And, it was a case of, it started off being about, oh, what happens if you've cheated? What happens if you've done something unlawful? But then it quickly latched onto all my morals, everything that I was morally against. All of a sudden my mind was telling me I could be that person. It got really awful really quickly. And I was having suicidal ideation, these thoughts that, my mind was almost telling me that, because it was so interlinked to my morals, it was telling me that you are a bad person, you shouldn't be here, you could have done these things that I knew deep down I never do. And I remember being at work and in Gibraltar, and there was a smoking area on the roof 6 floors up, and I looked over and I remember thinking to myself, like, I shouldn't be here anymore, like I need to give up. But I knew that I didn't want to. It was like the strangest, and I knew at that stage I needed to go back to my family, and I literally handed my notice in the next week, and I was like, I'm coming back. And then that's when things changed a little bit, because I was able to sort of open up about some of the, you know, the stuff to my very, very sort of briefly, not too in depth, because I was still very scared of the thoughts. Like, I was able to talk a little bit more about it, and that was a wake-up call, I think, for me in my journey. Massive wake-up call. And that was, you know, 2 years into you know, dealing with this very early on, and that I still had another 8 years to contend with before I really started to see the light.
Have you encountered any misconceptions or challenges around OCD?
Definitely, and I actually used to be one of these people myself. I used to be that person that would be like, oh my god, I'm so OCD, I love a clean room. And I didn't mean anything by it, I just didn't know any better, which is why when people make jokes about it now, I don't automatically get angry, because I think, I'm sure they're not meaning it in a malicious way, they just don't know. It's definitely not just about cleaning. There are parts of it that are about contamination, definitely. I don't want to minimise that at all, because there are. But there's so many more aspects to it.
It's very much like, oh, you must like to clean things. I hate cleaning things. Like, I'm really bad at doing it. I'm also allergic to most of the cleaning products. So, like, it doesn't really work. I wouldn't choose to clean the oven if I didn't have to. Like, you know, we do it as part of a flat. Like, I wouldn't choose to do it. And, like, I feel like a lot of things, it would be like, I don't know, just not understanding that there would be a problem. So I'd get invited out somewhere and I'd have said that I'm really uncomfortable being around people who are drinking because I'm worried they're going to be sick. And they're like, oh yeah, but just come for like a pub crawl with us. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. And they're like, why not? This is not very nice. You're not being very social. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't do it. And they're like, why can't you do it? Like, you can still get in there. Like, why? So I think people don't seem to realise that you can't, that just because I don't have a physical disability that physically stops me from getting in the pub, like, I can't get in there because it's too anxiety provoking to do so. And I don't think that bit's very well understood. And like, in terms of the jumpers, like with obsessive, like coffee disorder, obsessive Christmas disorder, obsessive cat disorder, I love cats. I'd say I'm obsessed with cats. I wouldn't say I have obsessive cat disorder, because it's a disorder, which means it affects multiple different things and has a drastic impact on one's life. Like, I love cats. I will stop and see every cat I see, but it doesn't have a drastic impact, like a negative impact on my life. Like, I enjoy seeing cats. I do not enjoy having OCD. I would choose to see cats. I would not choose to have OCD.
So what advice would you offer someone who is currently going through similar experiences to yourself?
I promise you're not alone, and as soon as you reach out, you'll realise that. I think as well it's worth noting that a lot of people who you talk to might not understand, and that's okay, because, you know, we've spoken about how the media portrays it. A lot of people don't know a lot about it, and I understand as well, in the moment you want to be understood. It's definitely not something you can deal with on your own. Like, definitely, please seek help if you can do. And yeah, join a support group if you can't seek therapy. Definitely join some sort of counselling support group, because it's amazing how not alone you feel when you meet people who are the same as you.
I talk a lot about sort of the other supports, Hub of Hope, getting on there, finding a local support group, an online support group that's related to OCD. They're all over. You'll find one in any city that you're in, and you'll be able to attend it, and if you're uncomfortable attending it, you'll be able to do an online one. You know, I think that the sooner you can be around people who have got OCD, the sooner you will start to feel a lot less alone. You'll feel so much better, because you'll feel like, actually, you know what, it isn't just me who's going through this. Like, there's a few people, and they'll understand you like you'll understand them, and you can have conversations that you simply can't have with other people.
To not give up on it and to not give in to OCD. Because I think it's really easy to go, it's all too hard, I'm not doing any of it. And my life is a lot different to how it was when I was in sixth form, and I couldn't go in a shop, and I couldn't go on public transport, and I couldn't sit near any of my friends, and I couldn't do anything like that. But it was only because I put in work to like change those things, I guess. And I think it felt much easier to literally just do what OCD wanted me to do and to just follow through all the things. And like when I was doing the exposures, it felt so much easier if I could just do the compulsions that I wanted to do. I could just not go in the shop. I could just do everything in threes. I could, clean my hands with bleach and that would be fine. Like I would much have preferred to do that. But that would have only reinforced the cycle and wouldn't have made it any better. Whereas because I did put in quite a lot of work, like both emotionally and physically, into doing it, like I have been able to do things and I have been able to travel. I've been able to, spend time with my friends. Like I can hug my friends now, which if you told me like literally any time through secondary school I could hug my friends, I would not have believed you at all. And I think that's like, it just requires a lot of work from you, and it requires you not to like just be like, oh well, I'll just let OCD run its course.
Do you have any positive outlook on how we could, I guess, rephrase the statement, what if?
What if people understood OCD? Like, what if people didn't have to go through the trials and tribulations of trying to get treatment? Like, what if we informed people more about what OCD was so they could get more appropriate treatment quicker?
What if there's a future version of you that's proud you were strong enough to make it? I think that's really good, because when I was really struggling, I did think about the future a lot, and I did remember thinking, what if we split up in the future? What if in 10 years' time I still have this? Will OCD always be in my life? Whereas I think that quote is good because it just gives you hope about how you're able to achieve anything and still have OCD.
You've got to take action. You've got to take some form of action. You can, by taking that action and doing that thing, or it can be that one thing that changes everything forever.